Good morning.
Hi.
Izzy, thank you for joining me on the sofa.
Pleasure.
And I really appreciate these few minutes here this morning. Do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are and a bit about your life?
Yep. So my name is Izzy, as you said, and I'm currently a student at Southampton University studying history and archaeology.
Okay, thank you. You're here at a very Christian conference. You've given up a week. No doubt there were other things you could have been doing. We see lots of people writing essays while they're here.
Yeah.
So I know people are busy. Do you want to tell us, obviously your faith means something to you. We're looking towards the season of the Holy Spirit now. We're in Easter. We've come through the resurrection, and just on the horizon now is Pentecost. Could you say to me something, a little bit perhaps, about what the Holy Spirit means to you?
Okay, well, I feel like if you'd asked me this question 12 years ago, I probably would have given you a much more clearer answer than what I would have said.
Wow.
Because, well, a bit longer than 12 years ago, but when I was about 7 or 8, I remember lying in bed and just sort of saying my prayers as an 8-year-old, and my parents were both downstairs, and I was sort of praying to God, just like, dear Lord, please pray, bless Mummy and Daddy and everything else. And I was sort of praying, just sort of lying in bed, trying to get to sleep. I remember thinking it was pretty late, probably about 9:30, quite late for an 8-year-old. And I remember just feeling like something, and I wasn't sure what it was, just sort of a peace and a happiness. I was like, oh, that's the Holy Spirit. There it is. I just knew it straight away when I was really little. I remember sort of going downstairs, sort of slightly scared, because I knew that my parents would be cross. I sort of creep into the kitchen and open the door, and my mum turns around and goes, you should be in bed. I was like, Mummy, I just felt the Holy Spirit. But I haven't really had an experience like that since then. The Holy Spirit to me now is a lot more internal and less obvious.
Okay.
And I think in its less obvious sort of form, it becomes more significant as an older person. But it's really hard to sort of try and explain. So the Holy Spirit to me now is just like the silences in my life, and not even necessarily when I'm praying or worshipping, just the silences in everyday life, the knowing that even in those silences there's still something there, if that makes sense.
It does, and you take me to the word presence, that there's something other than you. It's part of you. Is that a good description of it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that when it comes to talking about your faith, that's a really useful thing to have, to be able to say. Because as a archaeology and history student, there's always been a spirituality about sort of humans. And everyone can relate to that idea of something being, or most people can relate to that idea of another thing being present. And for me, that thing is just so clearly God and his love for us.
Okay. What encourages you to come to an event like this? Is that the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, I think it is. Before I came, I was really apprehensive about coming, because I hadn't been that great at university about going to church, and I haven't got a lot of Christian friends at university, so it wasn't something that was in my everyday life. And so it would have been so easy for me to just say, oh no, I've got too much work, I can't come this year. But I didn't. And there wasn't a voice in my head that said, Izzy, you need to go to celebrate, this is the Holy Spirit. It's just the fact that I'm here. I don't know, I can't explain it.
No.
I'm here, and about 5 weeks ago, I would quite happily have not been here. But now I want to stay for another 3 weeks.
What happens at a Christian conference? What happens to you that it's almost hard to come, and then you hear and you think, why wouldn't I come?
Yeah.
Can you help me a little bit to understand what happens to us that we feel like that?
I think it's just the human's great ability to be lazy.
Right.
And being happy with where you are. And so I'm really happy at uni. I love uni, and I was happy with I was happy with sort of my life, and I didn't feel like I wanted to go to church because I had my friends that didn't go to church. And it's just like the fear of knowing, even though I've come here before and I know I love it, it's just having to admit to yourself that actually, it's weird, you have to admit that there's something better. It's such a strange concept. You have to admit that there's something better, but you don't want to admit it because you don't want to have to make that change.
Okay. Can I ask you one last really difficult
Okay.
question? It's not complicated, but it is difficult.
Okay.
What would you say to yourself 5 weeks ago? I'm thinking of people for whom they are, broadly speaking, would describe themselves as happy, content, but in the sense that you've just described, probably sleepwalking a little bit through their life, okay? This is a really tough question, but just bear with me.
Okay.
What can we say to people who are not in a crisis about the joy that comes with a life of faith? Is there anything we can say to those people?
I think almost not being in a crisis is harder because you don't have anything that you need to change or you want to change. You have lots of things that you need to change, nothing that you want to change. And what would I say to myself 5 weeks ago? Probably because I've done it before, I'd probably say just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just seriously go for it, because it's not going to make your life worse. Stop batting around the bush and avoiding things that are hard, and just go for it. I think that's what I would say.
That is absolutely a wonderful metaphor for life, isn't it? Let's just live it and go for it. Izzy, thank you for being honest, and thank you for this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.